Hello. I know you are here to leave the fatigue of the day behind. Gently set aside the rush in your mind. Close your eyes, or just let yourself listen slowly. For the next hour and a half, I will tell you a story that is very old, very long, and uniquely ours. This is not just your story. It is not just my story. This is the story of the cosmic dawn, the moment when everything we hold, every star, every ocean, every single breath, first began. Our time machine is starting up. There is no need to fasten your seatbelts. Just take a deep breath and slowly release it. Now, we are traveling 13.8 billion years back to that single, incomprehensible, impossible point where everything started. The universe was not yet a place. It was merely an idea. The great beginning and the dark ages, imagine. There was nothing, no light, no time, no space, just a single point, so dense, so hot, that it pushes the limits of our imagination. And then, that moment arrived. We call it the Big Bang. It wasn't really an explosion, but more like an expansion. Instantly, at an incredible speed, in a period shorter than a trillionth of a second, our universe began to inflate rapidly. This cosmic dream, which we call inflation, created everything known. These first moments were chaotic, yes, but within that chaos, the most fundamental particles that make us up today, the quarks and electrons, were born. The universe, in less than the blink of an eye, grew from the size of a lentil to a grapefruit, and then to the size of a galaxy. However, that initial burst of light quickly faded. The universe was filled with a hot plasma, like a dense fog. The era where light could not travel, where everything was mixed together, is what we call the Dark Ages, just like the deep night that falls after a storm. This state lasted for about 380,000 years, until it cooled enough for the electrons to finally combine with protons. At that moment of combination, the first atoms formed, hydrogen and helium. The universe became transparent. The fog cleared and the first light spread into space. We still hear the echo of that light today, like a gentle background hum. The universe was now like a desert, largely empty, consisting of hydrogen and helium gas, but with tiny, invisible ripples upon it. These ripples, under the mysterious gravitational pull of dark matter, slowly began to attract each other. Just like a hand slowly gathering dust particles in an empty room, millions of more years passed, the birth of stars and the cosmic furnace. The gas clumps gathered by dark matter continued to compress under gravity. The pressure at the center increased so much, the temperature rose so high, and then a chain reaction began. The first stars were born. They were the magnificent giants of the universe. They burned fiercely, and the massive nuclear furnaces at their center began to convert hydrogen into carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, everything that makes us up today. But these giants did not live long. To leave the universe's first gift, they exploded in a spectacular final show, supernovae. These immense explosions scattered all the elements cooked inside the stars, gold, silver, silicon, iron, all that heavy material like a seed, into the depths of space. We, you and I, are made of this heavy material, this stardust. Remember that. Meanwhile, these young stars gathered together through the magical dance of gravity, forming vast structures we call galaxies. We slow down our journey toward the outer arm of our galaxy 4.6 billion years ago. The cloud of dust, gas, and elements left behind by those dying stars is slowly beginning to collapse in on itself. We are home. We are witnessing the birth of our solar system, the birth of the Earth. The center of this vast dark spiral is becoming denser, hotter, heavier, and then our star, the sun, flickered to life. The young sun roared, sending powerful solar winds sweeping outwards, clearing away the light gases, leaving behind the heavier, rocky elements closer to its immense gravitational pull. The dust particles left behind were gently, inevitably sticking together. This slow, chaotic process is called accretion. Over millions of years, these rocks formed planetesimals, the building blocks of planets, lumps of solid matter crashing into each other. And through all that cosmic violence, our own planet was born, a fiery, molten globe. Sometime in its infancy, a Mars-sized object we call Theia came crashing in. The impact was so violent that it liquefied the entire planet's surface, turning it into a superheated magma ocean. Material blasted into orbit quickly coalesced to form our constant companion, the Moon. As the planet slowly radiated its heat, the crust hardened. Volcanoes belched steam and gas, creating the first toxic atmosphere. And as the surface cooled below the boiling point of water, the water trapped in the rocks and delivered by comets and asteroids began to fall. Not a gentle rain, but a relentless, millennia-long downpour. The steam became liquid. The liquid filled the vast basins of the planet. The stage was set. The fire was banked. The oceans had arrived. Beneath the surface of the warm, shallow water, a quiet miracle was preparing to happen. For hundreds of millions of years, molecules danced, driven by energy, combining and reforming in the primordial soup. The fundamental laws of physics and chemistry were doing their slow, persistent work. Somewhere, the spark of self-replication was accidentally struck. The impossible happened. A molecule learned to copy itself and then protect that copy. The first simple cell, a prokaryote, had appeared. Life, the most fragile and persistent force in the cosmos, had begun its long, slow ascent. For the next 2 billion years, these simple, single-celled organisms would rule the Earth, locked in a silent microscopic war for nutrients. Concentrate on this time scale, 2 billion years. During this time, all development has occurred with almost imperceptible slowness. Close your eyes and focus only on your breathing. Feel this evolutionary patience wash over you. Even after billions of years of waiting, the next great step has always been taken. Remain calm, for history does not like to rush. This tiny, single-celled world was about to change everything. Around 3.5 billion years ago, a group of microbes called cyanobacteria began to thrive. They discovered a revolutionary new process, photosynthesis. They took the abundant carbon dioxide and sunlight and used it to power themselves, releasing a powerful corrosive waste product, oxygen. These microbes formed strange rocky structures in the shallow seas called stromatolites, and slowly, inexorably, they began to pump oxygen into the atmosphere. This was Earth's first and perhaps most significant pollution crisis, the Great Oxygenation Event. For most existing life, which had evolved in an oxygen-free world, this new atmosphere was poison. It was a massive extinction event, a global catastrophe, driven by life itself. The planet reacted violently, leading to periods of extreme glaciation, the so-called snowball Earth events. But oxygen survived, and the survivors of this great poisoning adapted. The long sleep of simple life continued until about 1.5 billion years ago, when some prokaryotes learned to merge, creating the first complex cells with nuclei, the eukaryotes. The single-celled organisms had waited almost 3 billion years for the right moment. And that moment, the signal for life to diversify and become visible, finally arrived. About 540 million years ago, driven by the increased oxygen levels and a host of geological factors, life burst forth in an unprecedented rush of forms and shapes. This was the Cambrian explosion, the moment when the creatures with the first hard skeletons, eyes, and complex movement began to swim in the newly minted oceans. The age of visible life had finally begun. After the Cambrian burst, evolution experimented wildly. Fish developed backbones, plants colonized the land, and insects took to the air. By 300 million years ago, the first great forests blanketed the globe, pulling down massive amounts of carbon, creating the coal beds we burn today. But the universe is a restless place, and creation is often followed by destruction. 252 million years ago, a colossal series of volcanic eruptions in Siberia triggered the Permian-Triassic extinction, the Great Dying. Over 90% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species perished. It was the nearest life has ever come to being completely erased. Yet, life always finds a way. From the ashes of that disaster, a new lineage emerged, poised for global dominance, the reptiles, and from them, the dinosaurs. For 165 million years, the dinosaurs reigned supreme. They were magnificent, massive, and diverse. While they ruled the daylight, tiny, shrew-like creatures, the first mammals, scuttled in the shadows, clinging to survival, small and discreet. Their time would come, but for now, they remained hidden. Then, 66 million years ago, fate arrived swiftly and violently from the sky. A 10-kilometer-wide asteroid struck the Yucatan Peninsula. The immediate impact unleashed unimaginable energy, but the true killer was the aftermath. Global firestorms, tsunamis, and a nuclear winter that blocked out the sun for years. The age of the great lizards was over. They vanished almost completely, leaving only their avian descendants, the birds, to carry their legacy. The playing field was wiped clean, not by competition, but by cosmic chance. The long shadow cast by the asteroid's dust began to lift, and in the quiet morning light, the tiny, tenacious mammals finally crept out of the shadows. Their opportunity had arrived. The mammals, adaptable and warm-blooded, quickly diversified to fill every empty ecological niche the dinosaurs had left behind. They grew larger, faster, and smarter. This was the Cenozoic era, our era. Among the diversifying mammals, a small group found refuge in the trees, the primates. They developed grasp in the hands, forward-facing eyes for better depth perception, and most importantly, large, complex brains, essential for navigating the three-dimensional canopy. Millions of years passed in the safety of the jungle. Then, the earth began to change again. The climate cooled, and vast forests in Africa began to shrink, giving way to open savanna. This environmental shift presented a profound challenge to the primates living there. To cross the dangerous open grasslands, standing upright offered a crucial advantage. It allowed them to see over tall grass to spot predators, and it freed their hands to carry food and offspring. This was the quiet, monumental step of bipedalism. About 6 million years ago, a crucial split occurred. While some stayed in the safety of the remaining forests, others took the plunge, venturing onto the savanna. These were the earliest hominids. They were not yet fully human, but they were walking the path. Now, focus on where you are sitting, on the feeling of your feet on the ground. Without that brave first step in Africa, millions of years ago, you wouldn't be sitting the way you are today. Imagine, standing was simply a survival tactic. But that simple act gave you the freedom to see the world and use your hands. This freedom created everything we know today. Allow this quiet luxury of being human to comfort you. The savanna offered danger, but it also offered new resources. The hominids who walked upright, like Australopithecus, famously embodied by Lucy, gained a survival edge. More crucial than bipedalism, however, was the burgeoning of the brain. About 2.5 million years ago, the genus Homo appeared. The first species, Homo habilis, mastered the art of knapping stones, creating simple tools for cutting and scraping. This was not just tool use, it was the ability to imagine a tool before it was made. Intelligence had begun to accelerate. Then came Homo erectus, the great traveler. They were taller, more robust, and possessed another game-changing technology, fire. Fire provided warmth, safety from predators, and most importantly, cooked food. Cooking unlocked far more nutrients, allowing their brains to grow yet larger, faster than ever before. Homo erectus was the first hominid to leave Africa, spreading across Asia and Europe. A few 100,000 years ago, the archaic forms evolved into the species we call ourselves, Homo sapiens. We were not the strongest, but we were the most adaptable. We survived the ice ages, not through brute force, but through ingenuity, social cohesion, and complex language. We refined tool-making, crafted art, and, critically, we began to think abstractly about the future and the past. We were the only species capable of telling stories. Around 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began the final great wave of migration out of Africa, replacing or absorbing all other archaic human species across the globe. We mastered every environment, from the Siberian tundra to the Australian deserts. We carried the entire 13.8 billion year history in our DNA, ready for the final sudden leap. For almost 300,000 years, we remained hunter-gatherers, living in harmony with the natural world. Then, about 12,000 years ago, the final geological period, the Holocene, began, bringing with it a period of stable, warm climate. This stability allowed for the agricultural revolution. We began to settle down, domesticating plants and animals. This shift created surplus food, allowing some people to specialize not in hunting, but in thinking, writing, and building. The first cities arose. Writing was invented. Mathematics, philosophy, and astronomy followed in rapid succession. Think of it. All the kings, all the wars, all the inventions, all the famous names, they fit into a tiny, almost imperceptible sliver of time, balanced precariously on 13.8 billion years of cosmic preparation. We went from simple stone tools to sending probes past the edge of our solar system, all in a fraction of a blink. Our journey is complete. We have traveled from the Big Bang to this quiet moment where you sit. We are the dust of a star, the patience of a water droplet, and the curiosity of a primate. All of that incredible violence and all of that waiting brought you here, safe. When you close your eyes, listen not just to yourself, but to the entire universe. I wish you good night. Sleep peacefully. And remember, today you are history itself.